closing high-ticket content deals is not hard as long as you know what to say on your discovery calls. But after taking literally hundreds of sales calls for my own business and training my own sales team, I've realized that most creators make the same few mistakes that kill their deals before they ever get started. And no, it has nothing to do with your prices or your sales skills. So in this video, I want to show you what those mistakes are, but more importantly, what to do instead so that your sales calls look a little more like this.
You should have seen the guy yesterday, man. Like, he stood up and spinned around and he's like, no ways. He's like, this is what we need.
Now, if you don't know me, my name's Nash. I've worked with many of the top travel brands in the world. I've helped hundreds of creators scale with retainers, and content business is what I do. All right, so let's get into the first mistake, which is super deadly because it has the capability to completely destroy the conversation before it even gets started. And in order to explain it, I want you to imagine a scenario. Let's say that your car is broken and you bring it to the mechanic to get it to start. And without even asking any questions, the mechanic says it's gonna be $3,000. What's your first response? Probably like, for what? Because it might be something super small like a spark plug, or it might be something big like an engine failure, but without any context of what the problem is, that number just feels random and very expensive. But if that same mechanic told you, hey, it's an engine failure problem and we can fix it for $3,000, or you can get a new engine for $7,500, well, now all of a sudden that $3,000 number hits completely different because it's in context of the problem that we need to solve. Now, most creators kind of treat their discovery calls like the first option. So a brand asks you what your rate is, and then you either say, I don't know, it depends on your budget, or you say it's $2,000 for a video. But in either case, from the client side, they have no context of what problem is actually being solved. So all they know is what they've heard from other video people, and that number feels random, feels expensive, and then they'll say, I need to think about it, just to kind of politely get off the phone, and then you never hear from them again. Not because you're too expensive, but because your price didn't make any sense. Now, price only makes sense in the context of four things. The first is, what problem are we actually trying to solve with the investment? The second is, what is the cost of not solving this problem? And it could be financial, obviously, but it could be things like time, effort, risk, all kinds of different factors. The third is, why do we need to fix it right now as opposed to waiting 6 months or 12 months? And the fourth is, what is the tangible thing that happens once this problem is solved? And if we don't know the answer to those four questions, then our price is just going to feel random, and it doesn't matter what we say, it's going to feel expensive. And that's really the first mistake, is talking about pricing before we talk about the problem. Now, the second mistake is pretty sneaky because you probably think you're doing the right thing and selling yourself better, but it actually hurts you more. So imagine this, you're on a call, the client asks you what you do, and you immediately start listing off all the things you can make. So photos, videos, content, social media, drone, whatever, all the stuff. And to you, it sounds great because you're like, I'm versatile, I can do a lot of things. But to the client, you're just listing off a bunch of stuff and you just commoditized yourself. And commodities can always be compared, and it's usually gonna be by price. So the brands that are paying premium rates for content are not just buying content, they're buying what that content does for them. More bookings, more conversions, more sales, better brand recognition, growth, whatever the case might be, that's what they're actually buying. So take a hotel, for example. Let's say that they have 10 rooms sitting vacant per night, and those rooms are valued at $300 per night. That's $3,000 that they're missing out on every single night by not having those rooms filled. If we multiply that out by a month, well, that's $90,000 that they're missing out on for pretty much no reason. So if you can develop a content strategy that can recover just a third of that, that's $30,000 back in their pocket every single month. And then suddenly your $5,000 retainer doesn't feel that expensive. Feels obvious. But the second you start talking about deliverables, well, you get compared to everyone else who's talking about deliverables, so your value gets flattened and you lose your pricing power. And that's why the second mistake is talking about deliverables instead of talking about outcomes. Now, even if we talk about problems and outcomes, we can still lose the deal if we end up turning this conversation into our personal TED Talk. So a lot of creatives go into discovery calls thinking they need to impress the client. So you start name dropping, talking about previous experience, previous shoots, results, why you're qualified, all this stuff. And the client's just sitting there thinking like, okay, cool, but how does this help us? And this is where a lot of calls start to go sideways because we know in the back of our head that we have to present our value. But we think that the way that we present our value is to tell clients that we're valuable. But the problem is when we do that, people start to feel like they're being preached to as opposed to being actually helped. So think about a therapist. If you went into a therapy session and they just talked about their background and people they've helped and their credentials and all this stuff, you'd just be sitting there thinking like, bro, like, what are we even talking about? And that's because the best therapists ask questions and then they listen. And those questions are specifically designed to help you come to a conclusion that's actually helpful for you without them physically telling you what to do. In other words, they help you feel understood and then they help you come to the conclusion that they want you to come to. And discovery calls work the exact same way. So I like to use the 30-70 rule. So I talk 30% 30% of the time, the client talks 70% of the time, because the one who's asking the questions is the one who's in charge of the conversation. And the more we can get them to talk about their business and what they've tried and what hasn't worked and what they want, the more they start to trust you as the person that can help them solve that, because you're asking the right questions. But the more we try to impress them by showing logos and previous projects and all this kind of stuff without them asking, the more we look like we're just desperate. And that's really the third mistake, is that we're trying to tell clients we're valuable as opposed to asking questions that show that we're valuable. Now, the fourth mistake is one that I see literally all the time. It's probably the most common. And it goes like this. So say the call goes great, everybody's vibing, the client seems excited, they ask how much you charge, you tell them the rate, and then they just say it's too expensive, it's outside the budget. So you obviously want to close the deal, so you start reeling back and you start compromising, saying maybe dropping the rate, dropping some deliverables, trying to make custom packages just to make it work. And from your perspective, you're like, I'm being, flexible, I'm trying to make it work. But from their perspective, it's sleazy. Because the second that you do that, it signals to the client subconsciously that the first price that you said wasn't actually the real price. And then they start questioning whether you want to actually help them or if you just want the deal. So in the sales industry, they call that commission breath, and people can smell it from a mile away. But here's the thing that they won't tell you. When people say they don't have the budget, it's almost never a money thing, and it's almost always because you did a poor job explaining your value. And I know that because if they truly believe that you could add an extra $30,000 worth of value to their business next month, then they would have absolutely no problem paying you $5,000 to do that. But they don't. So the move here is not to just slash the price, because they don't really want it cheaper. They actually just want more certainty that when they pay you, their business is going to get better. So the move is we want to zoom out, and ideally we do this before we mention price, but we want to reinforce three specific things. The first thing is, how much is the problem actively costing them? Again, in terms of finances, yes, but also time, effort, risk, all that kind of stuff. The second is, what does it look like once that problem is solved? In other words, what is the value of that problem being solved? Oftentimes that's the opposite of what number one is. And the third is, why is working with you the least risky way for them to get that result above and beyond any other option that they have? And I'm not just talking content, I'm talking doing SEO, hiring a marketing agency, hiring in-house, whatever. And that's really the fourth mistake that I see, is that people discount their price instead of increasing their perceived value. So let's say that we've done everything perfectly up till now. There's actually still one more thing that we can do to fumble the ball on the 1 yard line and lose the deal. So let's say that the call ends, everything's feeling pretty solid, we don't really know what to say, so we're like, cool, I'll send you something over. Well, we actually just lost the deal right there, because you're going to spend hours creating this custom proposal. You're going to send it over to the client, then you're never going to hear from them again. And if you do, it'll be like, it's too expensive, it's not going to work, let's circle back next year. And in your mind, you might think, well, maybe they didn't have the budget, or maybe they weren't that serious, but it's actually because we didn't give them a clear next step. You just gave them this vague statement, and deals die when we're vague. So the fix is, we got to be specific. And there's really 3 checkboxes that I want to check off to make sure that I know exactly what's happening next after this call. So we need a specific action, we need a specific person, and we need a specific timeline. Now, I like to do this at the end of my discovery calls, because if you're like me and you're pitching larger companies, or really anyone who has more than 3 employees, you're never going to one call close them, because there's multiple decision makers in place. So you're always going to need to have a discovery call to qualify them, and then you're going to need a proposal call to basically run them through the exact specifics and make sure everyone's on the same page. And that's kind of the closing call. So assuming someone's a good fit, at the end of the discovery call, I'll pull out my 3-box checklist and make sure that we schedule the next thing. So we need a specific action. That's going to be our proposal call. We need specific people, which is going to be me, whoever I'm talking to, and then any other decision maker that needs to be involved. And then we need a specific timeline. And again, I like to schedule that directly on this discovery call so that there's no vagueness. Everyone knows exactly, where to be, when to be there, who needs to be there, and there's no like back and forth over email. It's not confusing. Everyone just knows. So when we do that, we'll know that we have a proposal call scheduled for Tuesday at 10 a.m. with these people, and we have a specific action step that's going to happen to move the deal forward. And that's why the 5th mistake is leaving the discovery call without a clear defined next step. So if we zoom out, most discovery calls don't fail because the client didn't have the budget or they're flaky or something like that. They fail because somewhere in the conversation we lost our positioning and we became replaceable instead of necessary. So yeah, getting better at discovery calls matters, but what matters even more is building a business in such a way that by the time the client gets to the call, you don't have to convince them you're valuable. They already know you're valuable. And when that happens, your discovery calls become a lot less about you trying to audition to work with the client, and they become a lot more about the client trying to audition to work with you. And when you have that type of demand, you never have to chase or convince clients ever again. So if you want to build that type of business where your content, your positioning, your messaging pre-sells clients before they ever get on the phone with you, then watch this video next.